DGGR 46 TFGH6.
The morning sun rose weak and red over Rao Colony, painting the metallic roofs in blood-colored light. The storm had passed, but the world felt heavier, like the air itself held its breath. Elena stood near the medical bay's window, watching the patrol ships circle the canyon. Hawthorne had survived the night, but only barely. His face was bandaged, his arm immobilized. He hadn't stopped muttering since they brought him in. Something not human, he kept rasping. They came for me. Her eyes. No, their eyes. The commander had dismissed it as delirium. But whispers moved faster than orders. The soldiers talked, about glowing eyes, about revenge spirits, about something that walked the storm last night. And though no one said it aloud, every gaze that turned toward Elena carried the same unspoken question. What did she know? She didn't answer. She smiled when she had to, stood tall when they passed, and kept her silence. But the cubs noticed the change. When she came to their quarters, her scent carried something new: fear, guilt, confusion. Ku watched her every move, protective but uncertain. That evening, she gathered them around her as she often did. The soft hum of the generator filled the air, and she tried to read from the old storybook she'd brought from Earth. But her voice kept faltering. The words meant nothing against the weight of what had happened. Finally, she closed the book. You four, you didn't go out last night, did you? None of them spoke. Their ears twitched. Tiny Mech looked down at his paws. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Elena's throat tightened. You can't do that. You can't hurt people, even bad ones. Ku tilted his head, eyes dark gold in the dim light. He hurt you. You said you were fine. You lied. Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to scold them, to teach them the rules humans lived by. But how could she explain the things even humans didn't understand? The quiet endurance. The way you say I'm fine not because you are, but because you can't bear to speak the truth. I didn't want you to get involved, she said softly. You could have been hurt. Sala let out a low growl. We are Pack. Pack protects. The simplicity of the words broke something in her chest. She turned away, blinking hard, fighting the sting in her eyes. I don't want protection, she whispered. I want peace. But peace was already gone. The next day, military investigators arrived from orbit. 2 humans, 1 Vaughn liaison. They set up scanners, analyzed tracks in the canyon, and questioned everyone in the outpost. The cubs watched them quietly from the rafters. Strange claw patterns, one of the investigators murmured. Not consistent with any local wildlife. And the mud prints, small, coordinated, pack behavior. The commander frowned. You think the native species attacked a human, Sergeant? They've never shown aggression before. The Vaughn liaison flicked his crest uneasily. They wouldn't. Not unless provoked. Unless, his gaze drifted toward Elena. That night, The cubs could sense her fear even before she spoke. "They are looking for you," she said. "If they find out—" Anne interrupted, calm and certain. "They won't. We hunt well. We hide well." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Humans, we follow evidence. We don't stop." Carl looked at her for a long moment. "We learned that from you." She froze. There was no arrogance in his tone, no pride, just quiet fact. She had taught them to survive, to think, to adapt. She had shown them human stories about justice and courage. And now they were using her lessons to protect her. Outside, thunder rolled again, far away over the mountains. The colony's perimeter lights flickered, struggling to stay alive under the unstable power grid. In the darkness, the cubs gathered closer around her, pressing their warm bodies against her legs. For the first time since the attack, she didn't push them away. "Promise me," she said at last. "No more hunting. No more violence." Car's ears lowered slightly. "If the threat ends, we stop. If it returns, we end it." It wasn't the promise she wanted, but it was the only one they could give. As the night deepened, she sat awake long after they had fallen asleep beside her. The sound of their breathing filled the small room, steady and innocent. She brushed her hand across Mech's fur and stared out into the dark, where the storm clouds hid the stars. She had come to this world to teach peace. Now she prayed it wasn't too late to remember how. The night smelled of ozone and rain. The stars blinked through the shattered dome above the barracks. And somewhere in the dim light of the infirmary, she whispered, "I'm fine." But she wasn't. Corporal Elena Massac had been stationed on Rao Colony for just 6 months, long enough for the native cubs to adore her, long enough for them to see her as one of their own. The young Vaughn cubs would follow her everywhere, mimicking her salute, her laughter, her strange human songs. To them, she wasn't just the human. She was their pack sister. So when she limped into the outpost that evening, uniform torn, one eye swollen, lip split, the cubs saw. And though she smiled, though she said the words "I'm fine" with that quiet human strength, something in her scent, something in the way her hand trembled, told them the truth. It wasn't a training accident. Later that night, when the lights dimmed and the soldiers slept, 4 small shapes slipped through the cracks of the barracks. Tiny claws clicked against the floor. Whispered growls in their native tongue blended with the hum of the storm outside. They didn't speak much, words weren't needed. They'd seen the mark burned into her shoulder, the kind their own kind only used for shame. Someone had hurt their human. Elena dreamed fitfully, unaware of the shadows that vanished into the rain. The outpost AI logged movement outside the perimeter fence but dismissed it as local fauna. On the ridge above the valley, the cubs moved together, small, fast, fearless. Their names were Ko, Sala, N, and Tiny Mech, the youngest. They'd grown under her care, learned how to read from her tablet, learned what kindness meant in human tongue. They had learned mercy. But tonight, they didn't remember mercy. They found the scent easily: sweat, alcohol, aggression. The man's laughter carried across the canyon like a sickness. Sergeant Hawthorne, human, her superior. He had been drinking again. The cubs crouched in the brush, watching. Their fur bristled under the cold rain. Cow bared his teeth. He did that to her. Sala's tail twitched. He made her bleed. Tiny Mech trembled. She said she's fine. She lies to protect, growled N. We protect her. They didn't plan it. They didn't need to. Pack instinct moved through them like a single heartbeat. When Hawthorne stumbled out of his tent, muttering curses at the thunder, 4 small shapes leapt from the dark. The first strike was silent, claws across his face. The second, a deep bite through his wrist as he tried to grab his gun. His scream echoed across the valley, swallowed by thunder. The cubs didn't kill quickly. Humans had taught them about consequences. They made him feel. When it was done, they left him alive, barely breathing, marked as he had marked her. And in the mud beside him, they drew a crude human letter. E. By dawn, The cubs had returned. They crept back into their quarters, soaked and shaking, curling up beside the vent where they always slept near her room. Elena woke to the sound of distant alarms. A patrol had found something down by the canyon. She pulled on her jacket, still sore, still pretending to be fine. When she stepped outside, the cubs followed her, silent as shadows. A medic called out, "Corporal, you need to see this." When she saw what they had found, her throat closed. Hawthorne, half alive, babbling in terror, face slashed, body shaking. He kept muttering one phrase over and over. Eyes, glowing in the dark, they whispered her name. Elena's hands trembled. She looked down at the 4 cubs, sitting quietly at her boots, mud drying on their fur. Cal met her gaze without flinching. She wanted to speak, wanted to ask what they'd done, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she knelt, pressed a shaking hand to his head, and whispered again, softer this time, "I'm fine." The cubs purred low, proud, protective. And for the first time since the attack, she almost believed her own lie. The storm returned 2 nights later. Rain lashed the colony walls, howling through the cracks like old ghosts. Power flickered, alarms blinked red, and the barracks drowned in restless sleep. Elena couldn't. Every time lightning flashed, she saw 4 golden eyes staring through the dark, protective, loyal, and wild. The investigation had tightened. The Orbital Command sent orders to begin containment procedures for all native Van within range. The liaison had warned her privately, if your cubs are involved, hide them. They will not show mercy. So she hid them. Beneath the maintenance deck of the hydroplant, a narrow service tunnel led to an old water duct. The cubs crouched there now, their fur slick with rain, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of her flashlight. "You can't stay here long," she whispered. "They'll start searching every system by morning." Car's ears twitched. "We can leave. Forests beyond the ridge. We know the paths." She shook her head. "You wouldn't survive the drones. They are scanning for movement already." Sala growled low. "Humans hunt us now." Elena bit her lip. "Not all humans. Just the ones who follow orders." Her voice cracked on the last word. She crouched down and met Cal's gaze. "I'll fix this. I'll make them stop. But you have to stay hidden. Promise me." Cal hesitated, then nodded once. The others followed, reluctantly curling together in the dark. She left them food packs, a blanket, and her old combat knife, one she hoped they'd never need. When she emerged into the storm again, the colony felt different. The humans she'd served with wouldn't meet her eyes. The rumors had turned to certainty now, whispers of a native attack guided by a human sympathizer. By morning, she was summoned to the command office. "Corporal Massac," the commander said, face grim. "You've been here longer than any other human with consistent Van contact. We need to know what you're hiding." "I'm not hiding anything," she said carefully. The commander leaned forward. "Then why do those cubs vanish every night? Why did the liaison find claw residue under your quarters?" Her pulse quickened. "They are children. They wouldn't hurt anyone." He exhaled sharply. "You think that matters? Hawthorne's testimony may be unstable, but is clear about one thing. Those weren't animals. They were thinking. Coordinated. That means they can be controlled." He slid a datapad toward her. The screen showed blurry thermal footage, 4 small heat signatures racing across the canyon, one human silhouette watching from above. Her breath caught. "You think that's me?" "I think you've forgotten which species you swore loyalty to," he said quietly. "If you know where they are, tell us before this becomes worse." Her throat felt tight. "So, if you go after them, they'll defend themselves. You'll start a war you can't win." The commander's expression softened for just a moment. "Corporal, the war has already started." Guards escorted her out. She didn't resist. That night, they locked her in the comms wing under surveillance, pending transfer to orbit for questioning. She waited until the power grid dimmed again, the storm taking out half the sensors. Then she acted. She'd memorized every bypass code, every manual override. Working silently, She looped the surveillance feed, disabled her cell lock, and slipped out into the rain. Her boots hit the mud without a sound. The storm was her ally now. The hydroplant loomed in the distance, its floodlights flickering. But as she neared it, dread filled her stomach. The service hatch was open. Water pooled darkly beneath it. She dropped inside. The tunnel was empty. Food wrappers scattered, the blanket torn. The cubs were gone. A faint sound echoed deeper within, metal scraping stone, followed by a hiss. She followed it, heart hammering, until she saw them. The cubs crouched near the duck's mouth, their fur matted, their eyes glowing bright and wild. Around them lay the shattered remains of a wrecking drone, still sparking. "They found us," Ko said. "We fought." Elena knelt, her voice shaking. "You can't fight them all. They'll send more. You have to leave, now." En lifted his head. "They hurt you. They hunt us. We stop it." Her hands trembled as she reached for him. "No. Please, you don't understand. Humans won't stop if you strike again. They'll burn this world." Cal stepped closer, pressing his forehead against her knee. His voice was low, steady. "Then we'll protect our pack until the stars go dark." Lightning flashed, illuminating them all, human and alien, predator and protector, bound by something neither command nor fear could break. Elena's tears mixed with rain as she realized what she had done. She hadn't just taught them language or kindness. She had taught them humanity, its strength, its rage, its love, its defiance. And now, humanity would have to face what it had created. The colony burned. Smoke curled through the twilight sky, drifting between the ridges like black veins. Distant explosions thundered where the outer gates once stood. The storm had passed, but its rage had remained, transferred into soldiers and drones, into orders shouted through static, into the chaos of fear. Elena ran. Her comm crackled with shouts, her name, her rank, orders she ignored. She moved through the wreckage, soaked and shaking, the cold light of emergency beacons flashing red against her skin. The cubs were somewhere out there, hunted by both humans and drones. Every second mattered. She slipped through a collapsed tunnel and emerged near the northern perimeter. The scent of burned fuel filled the air. Her boots splashed through mud and blood. Bodies, both human and Vaughn, lay scattered under the searchlights. She found Cal first. He was crouched beside Salah, holding pressure over a wound that wouldn't close. His fur was scorched, his claws broken. When he saw her, his breath caught in relief. "You came," he rasped. "I always would," she said, kneeling beside him. Salah's chest moved weakly. Her pupils fluttered open. "More drones coming," Cal said. "They said leave, we stayed." Elena's vision blurred. She pressed her hand against Salah's wound and felt the faintest heartbeat. "You shouldn't have stayed. I told you to run." Cal's eyes met his, steady, calm, ancient. "We don't run from pack." A deep rumble shook the ground. The sky above flickered with the silver glow of descending dropships. Human Command had deployed orbital reinforcements, containment, they called it. In minutes, the whole sector would be ash. Elena rose to her feet, heart pounding. She opened her comm, switching to the emergency broadcast channel. "Command, this is Corporal Massac. Abort the strike. There are civilians, native miners, in the blast radius." Static answered her. Then the commander's cold voice, "Corporal, stand down. The Vaughn engaged military forces. You've been compromised. Extraction is no longer authorized." Her hand trembled around the transmitter. "If you drop those pods, you'll be killing children." "Collateral, Corporal," the voice said, and cut off. She stared at the comm for a long moment. Then she threw it into the mud. "Go," she said quietly. "How many can still move?" "3, he said. "Mech carries N. We can fight." "No," she said. "You'll run. Now." He bared his teeth. "We run, you die." She smiled faintly. Someone has to tell them when not to aim. Before he could stop her, she grabbed the plasma beacon from her belt and sprinted toward the clearing. The rain returned, thin and cold, but it couldn't hide the light. The beacon flared bright blue as she raised it high, an unmistakable signal in the darkness. Above, the targeting drones locked onto the flare. She turned, meeting Kao's eyes one last time. Go. He didn't move at first. Then, with a snarl of pain and fury, he howled, long and sharp. The others echoed him, a chorus that rolled across the valley like thunder. And then they vanished into the trees, shadows swallowed by rain. Elena stood alone in the clearing, beacon in hand, her body shaking but her eyes steady. The dropships descended. The wind howled. She closed her eyes and whispered again, for herself this time. I'm fine. The sky lit up white. When the fire cleared, the northern perimeter was gone. The strike team found no human remains, just scorched earth and fragments of a beacon. 4 days afterward, the official report spoke of a rogue officer lost in action. The cubs were listed as eradicated. The colony was evacuated, sterilized, sealed off. But in the far forest beyond the ridge, under the shattered moons, 4 figures moved silently through the fog. Kao led them, his scars silver under the starlight. In his paws, he carried a small metal tag, bent, burned, but still legible. Masik. He held it close to his chest, and for a moment, the forest seemed to breathe with him. Human words, Mech whispered softly, repeating the ones she'd taught them long ago. We protect the weak. Kao nodded. We remember. They vanished into the mist, bound for the deeper jungles, where new tribes whispered of the ghost of the human who defied the sky fire. Stories spread across Ral, of a human who stood alone against her own kind, and the cubs who avenged her. Years later, when humanity returned to Ral with peace envoys and trembling voices, they found symbols carved into the stone cliffs. 4 claw marks, and beneath them, a single human letter. E. No one knew what it meant, but every Van who saw it bowed their head and whispered, she was fine.